Trans-Siberian Railway Simulator. Is it going to be a win or a bin? Let's have a quick read through of the description on Steam. Get behind the controls of a classic Russian locomotive and see if wild animals, bad people, strong frost, and a constantly braking locomotive is able to stop you. Try to survive on the longest railway line in the world. So yes, this is another playtest. However, with this one, it is a game that I wanted for a long time. Since it first appeared in Steam, probably a year or so ago actually, I've wanted to get this purely because some of the screenshots look absolutely crazy. You think it's going to be just a train driving simulator or something like that, but there's guns and bears and things in the screenshots and videos, so I just thought this looks like something I'd want to get my hands on at some point, and I have. The game actually comes in two modes, so you can play Mafia mode, which is the train simulation element, combined with gunplay, which of course makes it far more interesting. Or you could just play it as a train sim, and you set this before you start, so you decide what you want to do. As it stands with the playtest, there is only a very small bit of the game you can play. It's driving a train down a piece of track, reversing, picking up some cargo, basically, in some wagons. That's all there is to it. You learn a little bit about the game mechanics. You realise that there is a survival element to this. You've got hunger, thirst, alcohol, hangover, illness, and hypothermia. So there's some really random things you have to keep up. I found if you get injured, then that's actually classed as an illness, which I think the wording is quite funny. Because if you get a shot, which you can, you're apparently ill rather than wounded, which I like that terminology. It just seems a little bit random. So the things I like about this game, I love the environment. I have a little bit of a fascination with the old Soviet era, all of the history there, and some of the way that life used to be lived. And even now, in fact, it just seems like a completely backward world, and that does kind of interest me. So this setting generally has drawn my attention in from the word go, really. The graphics themselves are reasonable. They're not brilliant, and some of the visuals on the human faces are a little bit ropey. But it's not trying to be a high-end graphics train simulation game at all. It's just a little bit of fun. It's obviously not taking itself too seriously, very tongue-in-cheek. But it does a job, and some of the detail in the train itself is actually very good. So it does okay. It does okay on the visuals. It's almost like two games in one. So what I've said earlier is it's a train driving game and there's a shooting element. I don't know which of those two elements the game is going to prioritize. This is only a very small snippet of the game, so I don't know how it progresses in the sense of, are you going to be doing more shooting or are you going to be doing more train driving? I'm not sure, but it does feel like a little bit of a two-in-one here. Now, the actual train controls are very, very detailed. They're extremely detailed, in fact. There's so many buttons and you don't know what they are. I mean, you hover over them and you get tooltips, which is good. Thumbs up from me. But there's so many of them. And the game does guide you through what order to do things. It doesn't necessarily explain why, but it does guide you through. Now, I feel like I perhaps should have been taking some notes, because if it ever asks me to just do the stuff and remember it, I'm never going to remember the sequence of running these trains at all. So hopefully when the full game comes out, there'll be some sort of wiki attached to it so you can just refer to it and just check whether what you're doing is right to operate the train. But complex is good because of the detail level. You want to feel a bit immersed into it. Right at the end of this video, I'm going to put a little extra bit of me just going on a really random shooting spree after I've done all the train driving bits. So I'll pop that at the end, but I just loved the randomness and how odd it felt doing what I was doing. But yeah, very tongue-in-cheek, as I said earlier. Okay, things that I don't like. Sprinting in this game, so the typical hold down the shift key and run, is actually slower than someone trying to run with one leg. They need to improve that. If you're going to be using a sprint button, you actually have to be sprinting. Getting around the map is painful in terms of how quickly you can cover ground. With the gun, of course, it makes a noise when you shoot it, and there may be multiple guns in the game. At the moment, I've just bought a Kalashnikov, but there isn't any sound effects when you're reloading, so it's a little bit strange when you're putting new... You can see you're reloading the gun on the screen, but you can't hear anything, and I think they need to just add some sound effects onto that. You've got a really, really large inventory in here, so there's things that you can hold, numbers 1 to 5, and you've got a big space for your inventory. Now, I would like to be able to just dip into my inventory and consume food or drink, for example. But what you have to do is you have to take the item out of the inventory and place it under the 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 keys. And therefore, it's just an extra step that is a bit annoying. I'd rather just consume straight out of the bag. And that is basically it. I mean, there's not much here to go by at the moment. It's a very, very, very short snippet of the game, but this could end up being a mad, fun, crazy game. But it's going to be enjoyable, I think. So hopefully they'll iron out a few things. They'll put extra things in the game, make it fuller, bulkier. But this could be a bit of a laugh when it comes out. I'll leave you with the footage of me going around on this strange killing spree with the Kalashnikov.
Ты чё, офигел?